Okay, guys, we're going to do the Book of Daniel on the phone this morning. I don't have access to my laptop at the moment, and I'm trying to figure out why the sound has that drone in the background. I can't get rid of it. I don't know what's going on. I'm about to bring up a filter or something, but I'll figure something out. But this isn't one of the super important ones. The next one is. The next one I will definitely have to do it on the laptop. So we can cover this here. It's mainly just setting up everything for what's about to come when all the prophecies come. Notice in the biggest distresses is when God does some amazing work in our lives. And Daniel is about to experience this. So, if you guys remember last time, it was Belshazzar's feast and how Belshazzar had an interesting experience. And Daniel told him what was going on. Now, he rewarded Daniel, but Daniel gave him some pretty bad news. So, in Daniel chapter 6, the plot against Daniel, we're going to see some stuff unfold. But we're going to see the providence of God working, just like we talked about in morning devotion. It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps, to be over the whole kingdom. And over these 3 governors, of whom Daniel was one, that the satraps might give account to them, so that the king would suffer no loss. Then this Daniel distinguished himself above the governors and satraps, because an excellent spirit was with him, and the king gave thought to setting him over the whole realm. This is what God does, even when we're in bad situations. He blesses us, overflowing. So this guy's about to take somebody who gave him some very bad news in the previous chapter, ruler over everything. Verse 4. So the governors and satraps sought to find some charge against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find no charge or fault because he was faithful. Interesting wording there. They couldn't find anything to charge him with because he was faithful. You know, when you're faithful, when you're trusting God, people won't be able to find anything negative to say about you. And you know what? It'll bug them to the point that they'll hate you for it. All you got to do is be faithful. I've experienced this personally multiple times in my life. Nor was there any error or fault found in him. We know what the right thing is to do. We should do it because then they won't have any evidence against us. I'm experiencing that right now, actually, on YouTube. Verse 5, then these men said, we shall not find any charge against this Daniel unless we find it against him concerning the law of his God. So now we're going to go and we're going to use his own religion against him. How funny. That very thing is happening today with people who claim to be Christians and aren't, and yet are using the word to serve their purposes instead of glorifying God with it. Verse 5, these men said, I take that back. Verse 6, so these governors and satraps thronged before the king and said thus to him, King Darius, live forever. All the governors of the kingdom, the administrators and satraps, the counselors and advisors, have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whoever petitions any god or man for 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the decree and sign the writing so that it cannot be changed, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. Therefore, King Darius signed the written decree. Now, when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home, and in his upper room, with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times that day, and prayed and gave thanks before his God, as was his custom since early days. Even in the situation he was in, he was giving praise and thanking God. Be thankful in your bad situations. Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. So Daniel knew what was going on, but he didn't let that deter him. Now we saw this near the beginning of the book of Daniel with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Very similar situation. Verse 12. Verse 12. And they went before the king and spoke concerning the king's decree. Have you not signed a decree that every man who petitions any god or man within 30 days except you, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, this thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which does not alter. So they answered and said before the king that Daniel, who is one of the captives from Judah, did not show due regard for you, O king, or for the decree that you have signed, but makes his petition 3 times a day. Interesting that they knew Daniel did this, set that up to try to catch him in that. But still, it isn't according to the law of his God. It's according to theirs. It's according to the king. But they're trying to work this situation out. How funny, the same thing happened to Jesus. Remember how they did it? Same scenario. Verse 14, and the king, when he heard these words, was greatly displeased with himself, and set his heart on Daniel to deliver him. He didn't realize what they were doing. He fell for their trick. And he labored till the going down of the sun to deliver him. Then these men approached the king and said to the king, Know, O king, that it is the law of the Medes and Persians that no decree or statute which the king establishes may be changed. So the king gave the command, and they brought Daniel and cast him into the den of lions. But the king spoke, saying to Daniel, Your God, whom you serve continually, he will deliver you. How interesting that the king knew. He loved Daniel. He cared for Daniel. The king knew and acknowledged that God was in control. Very interesting. You see what the Lord's doing here. Verse 17, Then a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signets of his lords, that the purpose concerning Daniel might not be changed. This is going to happen, guys, and his Lord's going to save him. I'm going to seal it so we make sure that nobody in there can change this situation, because those people heard that. They might have tried to change it. They might have tried to kill him while he was in there. Now the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no musicians were brought before him. Also his sleep went from him. So he was really concerned about this, but look how much faith is developing in him. That's interesting. Over a God that's not his. Verse 19, Then the king arose very early in the morning and went in haste to the den of lions. And when he came to the den, he cried out with a lamenting voice to Daniel. The king spoke, saying to Daniel, Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God whom you serve continually been able to deliver you from the lions? Still a little doubt, but I think he already knew. Verse 21, Then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. You can imagine what he felt when he heard his voice. Verse 22, My God sent his angel and shut the lions' mouths, so that they have not hurt me. But I was found innocent before him. And also, O king, I have done no wrong before you. Now the king was exceedingly glad for him, and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no injury whatsoever was found on him, because he believed in his God. Amazing. And now, look at this. Darius honors God. I think Darius was already there, but now he's really there. Verse 24, And the king gave the command, and they brought those men who had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. Them, their children, and their wives, and the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces before they ever came to the bottom of the den. They caught him in midair. Wow. Caught him in midair. Justice? Yeah. I think the Lord set that up on purpose, because it may be there was even more going on. If the wives and the children hadn't died, there would have been even more problems. Usually evil passes from generation to generation. Verse 25, Then King Darius wrote to all peoples, nations, and languages that dwell in all the earth, Peace be multiplied to you. I make a decree that in every dominion of my kingdom men must tremble and fear before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God. This is a great confession here. And steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. It's almost like he read the book of Psalms. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. So this Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Amazing. Amazing that these leaders are making this declaration. And you read these last couple of verses, it's almost like he read the book of Psalms. Amazing. But look at how God works. And look at what we talked about this morning in morning devotion. Look at how he works. Look at how amazing how he brings this kind of stuff about. And then the response afterward. Everybody was like, okay, well, maybe the lions are sick. Nope. When they threw them guys in there, those lions were more than happy to eat them. Nothing wrong with them. It was God. God showed himself. He proved himself right in front of everyone. And all Daniel had to do was remain faithful. No doubt. No question. I would imagine those lions were probably sleeping during the night, and Daniel probably, to stay warm, was laying in there with them. Amazing. So you see God's providence here. And what did he do? He ended up actually making Daniel even more authoritative, putting Daniel in an even higher position. Now, Daniel probably wasn't enjoying this, but hey, he had a job to do. That's good. He didn't have to be tormented. That's good. But this is the last chapter of normal stuff with Daniel. Daniel's about to have a very formidable run-in, very interesting run-in in Daniel 7. And he's going to start having some prophecies given to him that are going to tear him up. I think the Lord put him in such an easy position because then he would be ready to receive this and could tell other people, y'all go do this. I got to go lay down. I got to relax. But it would actually give him more time to be focused on these things. And so the Lord is going to show him great things. Already had enough fun. Now he's about to have some more. But the next chapter is going to start us really digging deep into this. And I'm going to try to make sure, even if I have to move my laptop to another room, make sure that I am in a position to be able to, we need to be able to search other things on the internet. So I can bring up web pages and show different things. So we're going to have to dig into some of these things and see some deeper meaning here to gain the greater understanding of what these prophecies mean. And this book was sealed. And there's a chapter that talks about it. This book was sealed until our time. The Lord said this is going to be for a very far future generation. And for the most part, people haven't understood it until our time, when it's really awakened and these things are starting to come to a greater understanding. And I think I've discovered something in Daniel 8 I don't think anybody else has seen or realized. And we'll talk about that when we get to that. But these next couple of, the rest of the chapters, I think, are going to be very intensive, and they're going to be a lot longer videos. So I'm going to have to make sure I have a quiet place to dig into this, because we're going to need to get into some really serious research, because we want to prove these things. So when this is why I'm doing them one a week. These videos are easy up to this point, but these next ones, that's why I'm doing them one a week, because it's going to give people time to go and listen to it and then go test everything. But we're about to find some very, very interesting, some information we already know, but some things we don't know yet. And my prayer is that the Lord will reveal to us more hidden within this book, so that we may share it with others and see as we see that day approaching. All right, guys, that was Daniel 6. I love you all very much. I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.